continuing to look at some of the planning and the thought process with what's going on with the Potter's Church, I figured it'd be a good idea to go ahead and describe what we're planning to do early on when it comes to children's ministry. In part, that ties into what I talked about last time. I was discussing how we're looking for space and we're making that our first priority. I can't remember now if that was in that video, if it was in the discussion around it, but the model we're trying to start with is with more of a rental, where we have something a couple hours a week as opposed to a lease where we have a space that's just assigned to us on a regular basis. And so as a result of that, we're kind of going to be in a situation where it's just one room at a time, most likely. And then with that, we're really not going to be looking to do kind of a Christian education time period like Sunday school, as most churches are used to, or maybe, as I understand it, catechism from more of a Catholic perspective. So we're not having that. Instead, what we're going to do is essentially a family service, a multi-generational service where everybody is in the one room as we are having worship. And so, of course, as I'm describing here, that largely is a practical matter. We're just not going to have the space and the time to be sending everybody in different directions for right now. But to go along with that, it's actually the plan as it stands, and of course this is going to, the whole idea with the Potter's Church, as I've described it before as well, is it's not always going to be perfect or totally polished. It's about doing the work and showing the treasure that's inside. And so this may change if experience shows us that it's not the right way to go. But the idea for the moment is that family style of service is just what we will always do. Because when you think about it, think about the history of the church and the whole idea of Sunday school or of children's church, it's relatively recent. Throughout most of church history, it's just the whole family is together for that service. And so that's what we kind of feel can be brought back, and that there are positives to doing so. Now, I always want to be careful. I don't want to suggest that because we are doing something, that it is the one right way to do things, because I don't think that's true. When it comes to the truths of Christianity, yes, I will fight for them tooth and nail, but when it comes to stylistic differences, that's a lot more subjective. So this is just our way of approaching it. It doesn't mean that everybody else should have to do it this way and they're all wrong and we're the only ones that are right. That gets churches in a lot of trouble when they approach things that way. So this more has to do with seeing the positives in doing the family style service, in having all the generations together, that you get more socialization that way, which is an important issue. And we do have it sometimes where children are only able to get used to their peers, and they don't really have any point of contact with people that are either younger or older than them. And so by having everyone together, it really teaches them the value in all people. It has to do with the fact that, it's my personal belief, especially from doing some teaching when it comes to Christian education, that children are a lot of times capable of understanding more than they're given credit for. And so if you have them in the service, then they are imbibing those lessons at an earlier age and having more of a chance to digest them and make them a part of their thinking. And so that's a good thing. Kind of related to that, in a lot of places, Christian education for children just depends upon story. And there are a lot of stories in the Bible, but those stories are true. And there are truths that undergird them. And so if you have a focus that is just on the story, just on the story aspect of, say, David and Goliath or Noah's Ark, something like that, and you don't explain how that has to do with the faith of the person who did actually become king of Israel, or the faith of Noah, or the judgment of God as it regards the flood, then you're not giving the full story. And if children are not getting that, and if all they are getting is a partial truth, then when that truth is challenged, then they're not going to be ready for it when they get to be, say, into high school or college. And so having them in the service with everybody else and learning the complete version, that's going to help them further down the line as well. And then it's also, it's not just children that this is in regards to. It's a good opportunity for parents, because there is some discipline that's going to be required for this approach. Just because children are capable of getting out of control. We all understand that about them. And so parents do have to instill discipline, and this is an opportunity to do so. Now, I'm not saying, that I never want to peep out of the kids. That I'm fully capable of handling that. It's really not that big a deal. But there is this necessity just for growing up and for maturing to be able to learn to control yourself, and that starts with the control that your parents give you. And so this is an opportunity to practice that. So it's good for parents, and again, good for the children to be able to take part in this process. And it's also good for the people that don't have those children, for the people who are dealing with the children of others, just to see that they are part of the life of the church as well. Because it can be very easy if they're just segregated to just kind of ignore them and not really think about them and about the future. And so by having them in the service, you get that aspect where you see, well, wow, we're not just building for today, we're building for tomorrow. And so I think with all of these things being in place, that it really can be valuable to take this approach. And so it's not purely a matter of we don't have the money for a lease. It's a matter of this is the way that we hope to always be able to do things, to always have everybody together. Now, again, as we move forward, as we have more resources, as we do have more space, I think that a classroom situation would probably be different than that. Just because there are differences on what people are capable of learning, and so you do have to be able to instill some of the elementary things. But when it comes to the service, when it comes to the sermon, and to prayer, and to songs, and to communion, that's something that everybody can be present for. Of course, we could get into communion. That would be a separate issue because that's just for people who are believers. But just to see it and to learn about it and to experience it, even if they are not yet to the point of partaking in it, that's a good thing too. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. If this is something that sounds interesting to you, or maybe you think that it's a bad idea, and you just have something that you want to share, feel free to put that in the comments below. Thanks very much for checking out this video and for keeping up with this process. I really would appreciate any involvement that you would be interested maybe in having. If you want to check out services once we get there, or taking part in what we're doing. If you would consider donating to support the church, the Patreon for Quest Forums is in the description. You could do that there and set up some monthly giving to support us through this process. But most of all, the most important thing you can do is to pray. So this video is going to be over pretty soon. Maybe before you start another one or move on to the next thing, just say a word to involve God in this and to show that you value what we're looking to do and that you hope that it can succeed here. If you would do that, that really would be the best thing that you can do, because it's His support that we need more than anything else that we need. And so that would be a huge way to get behind us. And again, I really do just appreciate your interest. And I'll say, as I always do, until next time, keep looking up.